our viewers, welcome to Super Soul Sisters. I am so glad you are able to join us today. My name is Lona Kasasa Jemima, and with me I have a very special Super Soul sister. She is simply special. You can tell by just the way she's looking right now. But before we dive into that, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today. I want to thank those who are online, who are watching us online on YouTube, Super Soul Sisters, TikTok at Super Soul Sisters, no space in between, with S as a 3, as well as Instagram. Our handle is Super Soul Sisters with a space in the middle, and still S being 3. And Twitter, I know you all like to tweet. I will be waiting for your comments, your remarks, your reviews on our Twitter handle, Super Soul. Thank you very much for joining us. With me, I have our Super Soul sister today, who is going to tell us all about her life story and how she has been able to achieve all that she has. Yes, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And thank you.
Tell us more about yourself.
My name is Jacklyne Arinaitwe.
Yes.
And my married surname Piorek. And I was born in Kabale, in a mountain. Girl.
Yes.
Irish girl.
Yes.
Obushera.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's my pleasure to be here today. And yeah, thank you.
Yes. Tell us more about Kabale. How was it like being a mountain girl?
My life in Kabale as a child, I was like a bush girl. A bush girl,
yes,
a real bush girl, because I was not fortunate to grow up in a decent home. And the way I grew up and to see where I am today, I thank each and every life I faced in a Kabale, because it shaped me to be the person I am today.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell us, who were you born to? You say that it wasn't a decent home. Who are your parents?
My parents, I love them so much.
Yes.
And they are much still alive. And I thank God that if they could see this, but unfortunately, if you don't mind, I can mix for my parents with the language they can understand. Tata na mama, ninyenda kubasima mnonga. I know mukabire mwampire chone chimu kubasa. Konka ruhanga hino kwali kukugabira. And erizoba ninsima that muchiriho muhurire. Murebiro kunkuzire, murebire hinahika. Mukama guba abahamagara marungi, and ndabakunda mnonga. So back to the viewers. My parents were not so rich. They did not have enough. Like they can take us to school. When we were born 5 children, I'm the firstborn. And unfortunately, my brother died at the age of 14.
I'm so sorry.
And for me, seeing my parents, the life they had, the struggle they had, I remember my father used to have a butcher, and where my mom, sometimes she would just go to work for food. As you know, all Kabale, leisure. And I remember every time I come from school, I go to my daddy's butcher. And I think I was about to 8. He was doing pork joint. So even until today, even my kids, as like my daughter especially, is like the only person who does the best pork is grandpa.
Amazing. Still lives on.
So when I used to come from school, I would go to his small, and when I say butcher, it was not like this fancy butcher you see here. Typically local, where you carry a stool and sit there, and then you carry your plate and start eating. And then I will see how we slice very small cabbage, and I learned how to serve people and sometimes because I was very young. So I think at some point, I think parents break down and then start drinking, and then with that kind of, it's like now we were lost as children, because now like they fall into depression, of which I think as Africans, we don't really know that depression is real and it is there. So now, only now I understand that actually my parents went into a situation to raise us. They could have given us if they could, but it was so difficult. And the only thing is like as I started drinking, and then me as a child, I had to take care of my siblings. I remember that even when I had to go to school, we had a home and it had a very big tree. And when I say home, it was a hut, a grass house. A grass house where like, even at some point when the rain, you are sleeping at night, it started leaking. And then I'm like, okay, that's the kind of life that I had. And you go to school, sometimes your uniform, you're in fit, your uniform is torn, you don't even have money to take it to the tailor. And I was in a government school called Kabiri's Primary School. Yes.
It's still there.
It is still there,
Yeah.
yes. And every Wednesday, like they would want to check us how
The
hygiene.
grooming, yes.
And then I would like, okay. First of all, I did not have oil on my body. I did not wash,
The uniform.
the uniform. And it's like they knew when you have that situation, they know how to put, like scouts.
Yes.
You know, the school had scouts, like by then, that if they catch you running, they'll bring you back. And then you have no choice but to go.
To go and they check
Go
you.
and check me. And honestly, like every day, I was always put up with the shame, but in my heart, I always say, you know what?
You were never bullied at school for being in that situation like that?
Being a Christian school, and for me, I was always a fighter. Regardless of like whatever I'm facing, I never let anyone to undermine me, and in a respectful way. But like in terms of having friends, I don't really think that I used to have a lot of friends, because you know when you are from a raw background, even if someone loses a pencil, they'll say you stole the pencil, your bag is the first one to be checked. And for me, I always like had something inside me that is not looking how worse my life is, but how better I want to become. I was very, under circumstances, I would say I was, sometimes I come in a third place, in a fourth place. There's this one time where I did like only 3 exams, and I came like in the 10th place, and I was like, okay, now studying also is becoming hard. So until I reached in primary 6, things were hard. My parents would fight. You go to school and come from school, you don't sleep at night because there's always violence going on and fighting. Do I have anything that I would blame my parents? No. I'm proud of that, because the reason is, what if I was given everything? Maybe I wouldn't be able to be here where I am. And today's life, it teaches me that in life we have 2 choices to make. It's either right or wrong. You have 2 ways to turn. You turn left or right. It's always about you as a person to choose what you want to be.
Yes, you mentioned that your dad had a butcher, and your mom did some work here and there.
Yes.
And is that caused them to have so many wrangles? As the eldest daughter, how did you deal with that, to not let that affect your studying?
It affected me a lot. It affected me in terms of that when you go to school, you probably didn't even eat dinner. You did not eat anything. And you still have to come back home where there is no food. And you sit with children, sometimes, you know, the maize. They roasted the maize, and they came with their pockets. They came, and you sit there, you hear that smell that you cannot even...
You can't ask for
something. So the only thing I knew is that I used to, like, sometimes when it is too hard, I would go to my grandmother and say to eat if I can. And to the extent where I started dropping in my Rosarates in school, and that's when I felt like this was hard. And to the ways where every Saturday I would wake up like 6 o'clock and go to the swamp. We used to have a swamp where they plant like kasoli, or they plant Bumondi sweet potatoes, and then there is this a shriga. How do you call shriga? Shriga dodo.
Yeah, the greens.
Yes. So now a shriga was a very, very known vegetable that when you get a lot of it, then you quarter like in a bunch, and then you go and sell.
You used to go and sell.
So now, being Saturday, that was not school, I would wake up like 5 o'clock and I walk like for 25 kilometers to go by maybe 8 o'clock. I'm already moving all the swamps, collecting a shriga, dodo, and come home, make bunches, counting of how many bunches I have made, and then take it to our trading center. And then start to sell them. So whenever I finished, and then that's when maybe I would buy how they call it, they know how, like, you go to Nakawa, how they put the sweet potato, the bunches of sweet potatoes, yes. And then I would maybe buy a bunch of sweet potato, and then I buy the vinyeva, because remember I had my dodo. Then I go home, cook the sweet potato, cook vinyeva, and put dodo, and eat with my siblings.
Yes, you were the firstborn,
yes.
So you had to take care of them.
Yes.
This went on your whole primary?
It went on to my whole primary until my parents, I think, got where I'm like, the fight was non-stop. So my mom went to her home, and then we remained with my father at home.
She didn't take you with the...
No, so we had to stay home with, and I think that for me was always the very disturbing situation, that on top of struggling
for food,
but then you have to understand that, okay, if my parents is fine, I can make my ways to eat, and my siblings. So as of today, I feel like my siblings were not as lucky as I was, because even until today, you'll see that sometimes in life, and it is the truth, it's by grace of God, that things that happen to us as children, if you're not strong enough to have opportunity or to pray, and it always turns around with choices you make, even as an adult. And that's what goes back why I said we have two choices, to either make right or wrong. So a choice is always for us to make. Yeah. And for me, what happened to me was like, no, I would say, no, this is not what I want. That situation, I reached a point where I say, I cannot take this life. This is not my life. I have to change for who I am. And for me, that's when I dropped out to the school.
You dropped out in what class?
In grade 6. I mean, sorry, primary 6.
Yes.
And then I say, no, I'm leaving this home.
Yes.
I'm no longer going. If that is what it is, I'm gone. So I remember putting my clothes in a kavera, and I had no direction where I'm going.
Are you going with your siblings, or you are going alone?
No, I was also going alone.
Like the way your mother left, you also leaving.
I was like, I'm going.
Yes.
I first went to my mom, to her parents, and then it was like, no, we can't keep your mother here and also keep you here. You have to go back to your mom, to your father. So in a situation like that, the most important, the people who suffer a lot is the children.
Yes.
Regardless of what. And for me, that's why it is very important for me that this message that it's my private life. It have taken me years to like say that I would say this and this.
Yeah, sure.
But my question has been, for the last 9 years, what have you done? What can you tell a child that is out there struggling the same thing, going through the same situation, and there is no way out? And even these children, even though they have relatives who are much more, who are better, what are these relatives contributing to these children? I was a smart child. I had a relative. I could, but even today, I would never even look at somebody and I say, why didn't you help me? No, I won't. And for me today, all I say is like, I love my life, because it is today here I am giving a testimony and saying that my journey was to shape me to be who I am today, so that my message could change every girl who have dropped out of school, who have no hope, who is struggling, and let her know that a choice is yours to make. And you have to have a dream, regardless of what you are facing. You have to get to that dream.
So you left your dad's place. You go to mommy's home. They say they can't take care of you. Where do you go after that?
So I remember coming. My grandmother, may she rest in peace. My grandmother of my dad. We had our differences, but I always knew deep inside I was a favorite grandchild.
You always know that this one favors me.
May she rest in peace. So I remember coming back to her and I said to her, and with everything I went through, I always had a religion in my heart as a Catholic, Roman Catholic. Because as a child they told us, if you steal, you have to go on a confession. If you do this, you have to. So with that and with my suffering, the only rescue and the only consolation was for me to always go and pray. And in that time, Kabanjo Munyihe, you know, Omunyihe is like a certain group of girls to follow Mary, to get Mary, my saint. So Mary was my saint. And by the way, today, Mary is also her birthday in history. Mary was also born on the 8th of September. So at some point, I was like, every time I would go and say, Mother, only you can take care of me, in my silent prayers. So now when I went to my grandmother, I said to her, I am tired. I want to go. She asked me, where are you going? I said, I don't know. I remember she had the sogam, omugusha, amamera.
Yes, sogam.
So she gave me, I think like it was 1 kilo, 2 kilos, or whatever. She said to me, take this to the shop, sell it, and whatever money you get, find your way.
Wow. How old were you at that time?
I was, I think 12 years. Even when I see these kids like you see on a street, at 12 years I didn't know where I was going. Those days to cut to Jirobu Tare. The only thing came in my head was that, let me go in a market. Naza Karukara. There's a market called Karukara. I walked from my home up to that market. And I walked around. You remember my grandmother, the only thing is she gave me the money I sold. I think I had, maybe it was like, I don't even remember how much was it at that time.
Still must have been.
But the only story I remember was how I walked to this market, and it was almost at night. The people were taking their things going to the vehicle. And I remember there is this woman. I went to her and I said, do you have babies I can come and help you to take care of? This woman didn't even ask me what, and it's like, are you sure? I say yes. She asked me, where are you from? I told her. Why are you not in school? I cried. And she told me to help her pack the clothes. And when we finished to pack, she took me in a Kabale town. She gave me home, and when I got there, she did not even have children. I became like child in children. And then she said, you stay here, I'm going to ask my friends. And I disappeared. Only my grandmother knew where I went. And my mom did not know where I am, and my dad, I just disappeared. She went, I was always hardworking. That is one thing that God gave me. Always hardworking, always respectful, and always honesty. And for me today, if there is something I value in my life, is trust. Is trust, because it's what has made me the person I am today. The way she told me to help her with her clothes, she did not know who I was. Took me to her home. The next day she's like, I'm going to work, but I will come and find you here. Let me see if I can talk to my friends and get you somewhere to work. By the time she came back, I had cleaned the house. I had done everything arranged. I'm a very organized.
Yeah, organized person. Yes.
So, and when she came back, she's like, you did all this? It was like, for me, my interview with her.
Of course, your first day, you
yes. And she's like, okay, I have a friend, just had a baby. I'm going to take you there. So I went, she took me there. I remember and now within of that time of my struggle, I don't know that my parents maybe are looking for me or whatever. My mom, they have called there, but my grandmother, I always told her, when I settle down, I will send you a message. And she rests in peace. Only that she said, I think all her blessings has been carrying me all that way. I went, she got a friend, had 2 kids, and remember what I said, I am grateful for this journey, because if I did not know how to take care of my siblings and taking responsibility, I wouldn't have known to work with other people. And it is very important for me that as a mother, teach our kids to work, especially girls. Even my daughter today, she knows that. And even my friends, even if they come, it's like, I cannot believe you have raised a child who can cook, who can clean, who can work. And I always say, God, the only thing I want to do is that if someone comes to me like you have your own struggle, I will never, ever to understand your pain, but I remember my own pain to sympathize with you.
Yes.
So when I went there, the new baby and the small girl, so every morning, so now it's like, now I'm settled.
Yes. This is your home now?
This is now what I remember. By then they were paying me 5,000 a month.
A month?
A month. For me, that was a lot of money.
I'm sure even then it was a lot at that time, but not enough.
Not enough. So what was my intention now to work? I said, okay, I will save. As soon as I have enough, I'll go back to school and start where I stopped. I worked 1 month, 2 months. I sent my grandma a message to tell her that I settled. I got a place where I'm working. She was very happy. But within that, my mom, and I think people used to see me because this lady, she had a shop in Kabale town. So every morning I cook. And I won't be able to mention the names because for privacy reasons. And I will go and take a child to nursery school, and I will come back home. I would wash the clothes, I would clean the house, I would cook lunch, I take in a basket and take her to the shop for lunch. So, and I think within there are people who knew me and they saw me, especially this Bashubuzi lady who goes in our town to buy obumondi and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they knew my mom. So I think my mom, that's always who she had to go and look for. So this one day I go to take lunch for her. And when I reach it, I see my mom, she's sitting behind. I nearly drop the thing and run off.
You are not going back.
Because I was not expecting that my mother, she's going to
How
be
long
there.
had you been working?
It was like 4 months later.
You've moved on, you're happy with your life.
I'm happy with my life, I'm settled, this is where I am. And when I looked at my mom, I was like, okay. I said, Mom, it's good to see you, but I know you know I'm not going. I'm staying here. My mother looked at me, she cried. She cried.
Must have been hard for her.
For me, I think she felt like I failed as a mother. Would have given my child. She couldn't believe at my age.
You were working.
I was working as. But I said, no,
you will not
don't have to worry. I told her that I would work hard and I would build a house and I would bring you back home. And today I made it.
Yes.
I was able to fulfill that. So she accepted and I told the lady, please give her all my salary.
To your mother?
To my mom. Let her go. And at least now she knows where I am. So she agreed with us and she went back. And I continued working. But am I lucky? No. I think at some point also that family had its own issues. Yeah, started fighting and so now it had disturbed me so
you.
Yes, so much, like I not here again. And even not was it, I think by then I was about like 13 thereabout. And this same family, I remember when they were almost crying, I was a deep asleep. And I used like to sleep in a sitting room. And this man came and hear him like nearly raped me at my age of 13. And I said, you know what? God was with me because it's like I got awake and I started fighting him and I dropped because the stool, I grabbed it like a stool. At that night was like, I don't know what time it was, but I had, within those 4 months I have stayed with them. I was like, my mama just came, I made a map with her, and now this guy comes.
He wants to destroy everything.
Then I'm like, this woman, she's been so good to me, and I did not know what to do, but the only chance I said, I was lucky, I grabbed the stool, I hit him, and I ran off. And when I ran off, I quickly went to the landlord. And I knocked, and this landlord, she was the lady, also with her grown-up children. I was shivering, I was scared, I cried, I told her what was happening to me, and she pulled me and took me in a house, and she said, you stay here, we will sort it out tomorrow. Did I sleep? No. I stayed like shivering. I'm like, what has happened? What has happened? And the next day, I remember telling her, you know what? Don't tell her, and I'm not ever going back. And I wanted to tell her why I ran away, because she loved me so much. I loved her kids. We were together, and this is what is happening domestically in people's home, where you find like say, oh, you bring a house girl and the house girl is sleeping with or whatever. But these girls are in a situation where they cannot speak for themselves. Because for me at that time, I knew I had a good relationship with this lady, but I could not tell her, your husband really did this to me, but except to run away. Who is speaking for these girls that are domestically abused, sexually abused?
by the men in the home.
And at the end of the day, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say for the sake of where they come from or what they have to do. They just have to keep quiet.
That is a very deep story and rather very sad, but we are going to take a short break and we are going to come back and dive more into it. Please stay tuned as we hear more of this story. Welcome back to Super Soul Sisters. We were still having a very deep conversation with our Super Soul sister. She was telling us about how she left Kabale to all the business ventures that she took on. Yes, Madam Jackie. So you have left this lady who has helped you. You have gone to the landlord. You have told her you do not want her to tell your boss. What do you do after that?
After that, what happened, and this is really sometimes surprisingly but true story. I think I was the only now child in our house.
Yes.
And this lady, she was a born-again Christian. And then she said to me, okay, we will pray. She taught me how to pray. And on top of that, it's like, until today, I believe that sometimes we don't wait angels with wings in our lives. Actually, as human beings, we are angels to each other. But even that incident, I saw to that it pushed me somewhere that I needed to wake up. It's like my life is like I'm always from one place, and each place I learn something there to better me. And when one time she was leaving a town and going to Kampala for her business, and she reached somewhere in the town, and like, you know, they stop bus and they find like people were gathering, and she's wondering why people are there. And when she got there, she found like they had a small child in a blanket that they had collected, and they were wondering where is this child coming from. And of which still again I would not mention names or whatever, but with time maybe part 2 if the people ever want to tell their own story. So, and then she's like, no, I think this child, I know I'm going to Kampala, who is the chairman of this place, can I take this child? And I would take her with me. So she proceeded with her business, but with the contact with the chairman. On her return from Kampala, she then picked this child. I was there, and she's like, hey, I have brought you a friend. I'm like, what friend? It was a small human being. Like, even this child, when you put her in a seat, you would come and sit on top of the child without knowing that the child was there. So I looked at this baby and I said to myself, okay, God, you have your mysterious way of coming to me. So now she became my teddy bear. So would I say today? So this baby, I fed her with help. She would buy oil. She would even a skin was like a, no, she had a skin like a, you know, frog skin. So she, like, we would take her to the doctors, and then what happened was that everything that they would tell you, feed her this, feed her this. I'm telling you, within 6 months, that lady said to me, you have saved a human being. I'm like, yeah, most of the time now, when she started talking, she started calling me mom. Because it's like I grew up, like somehow I bond with this child. And even until today, I'm looking for that girl. And I remember calling her a name. And I said, from now on, this child, she's a blessing as me. I had my own name, and I remember say, your name from today is going to be Kemijisha. And we bonded to each other. She grew up, she became a big woman, and that family really, like, I was feeling at home. And then this lady said, no, you have to go back to school. And when they Kemijisha was a bit older, and then and also she did not have a husband. The husband had passed away.
Yes, the lady you were staying with.
Yes, and for me, seeing her softness, her kindness, and how this child came in my life, I was like, we were meant. This is shockingly true, but someone hearing it, and those who knows the story can say, wow, probably I've been missing for a long time. Now they're also going to have a chance to see me. In that case of a scenario, me who have come from all this struggle, in this life we all have a journey. And with that journey, we all have a purpose in it. So now for me growing with this child and now becoming, gave me a job. Because remember,
a responsibility.
Yeah, gave me responsibility of raising a child and seeing her grow and knowing how she started. I was like, wow, I have brought a human being in the world, and now she's a big girl, and she's wow. At some point later, with this family, when I went to go to school and all that, I finished, and her daughter, I became like sister. I became a part of the family. So her elder daughter was living in Kampala, and then she said no, and she was her children and everything's like, no, we came to Kabale one time and said, no, I'm taking her with me.
Yes.
Now that she has finished, I'm going to take her. That was like maybe senior 4, whatever. I'm taking her with me.
How old were you?
I was about 15, 16. I was about 16. But now, imagine now I have to struggle to look for either if I want to do a course, or I want to go to university, or I want, it's like, okay, at least I'm okay. If anything happens, and I believe, never give up in life. Remember, have a goal, have a purpose. Regardless of what you go through, as long as you have a silver lining that you are looking at, you will get there. So when she brought me here, you know, we have grown it from each other, and it's like, we did not get along also. It's like always fighting, you know, sisters, and I'm like, but is this my life for really what I want? I always felt like I'm up to something. I want to do something. So when I stayed with her for like 1 year
in Kampala,
and also I was, and she was also a very prayerful person, just like a mom. She taught me how to pray. I learned how to fast. I learned how, and every time she always said to me, something is going to be big in your life. And I always ask myself, what is she saying?
You don't
She says, like, every time I pray, I don't even see your future. It's like something, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, I was always an open-minded person. I'm like, this one, she's going crazy. Like in my mind, I'm like, no one sees someone is the future, like, you know. That, But all I know that every time I prayed was a prayer with a sorrowful prayer. And when we fast, and did that take me away from being a Catholic? At some point, I reached a point and I said to myself, what is faith actually? You know, is the faith or belief in who we think he is, or is what we carry inside us as human? How we treat each other? So regardless of that, and then also later a friend came and said to me, maybe now that she can't get to school or whatever, let her come and stay with me, and then I will be able to raise money, and then she can go to whatever course she wants to do. So now a friend took me. She was also a business lady, goes to Dubai, buy clothes, come sell, and me staying with the kids. Actually, there I became a bit more happy. And
when you went to that other
to the friend,
yes,
because now there I remember she even used to bring a teacher to come and teach us from home, because there was another lady that was staying at home. And she used to bring a teacher who would come like study home.
Yes,
education,
like,
yes,
education
schooling,
at home.
yes. So I remember that every time they were teaching this lady, I would make sure I knew what time the teacher is going to come. So I would do all my work and I finish, even if I'm behind the window and I'm listening what they are teaching.
Yes.
Because she was going to do senior 5 and senior 6, but me, I was not a part of it. It was for this other lady. But I said, no, I will take this opportunity. And sometimes I will borrow her books and say, can I see what they taught you, and things like that. So with that situation, I remember I was also there, and they told me my mom, no, our house collapsed. You know that back home
yes,
now.
back at home in Kabale.
Yes, so the tree, that big tree that used to be at the back of our house, with the wind came heavy, and the branch hit
The house.
the house. And then I was like, okay, then what? I remember by that time, I think I had like 250,000 Ugandan shillings
paying you
that I had saved. The good enough they never used to give to me. I used to tell them to keep. And this is a family that I don't even know where they are until today. But all I remember is the memories. And there is one time that I ever ran out to forgive. It's like one time I was playing a ball with the kids, and then the ball hit the glass of the window, and the window cut one of their son. I just saw the blood shooting, and I was like, I'm dead. So I went and called a phone. They we had always a vehicle, and the driver at home came and took the child to hospital, and they buried the child, and the child came back. At least it was not a very, but I was shivering, knowing that I have,
messed up.
I have messed up my life. This man was very kind, and his wife also was like, I'm dead. My all money is gone now to take care of the child. There's no way they are going to pay me salary, and I never wanted even to ask them. So now, when this situation of my house collapsing happened, the good thing, the mother of this lady is the one, my mom used to know her. We was also from Kabale. So my mama used to know where this lady's mama is. So wherever she wanted to communicate with me, she would go and visit the mother of this lady I was working for in Kampala to remember now I'm back again doing housework. Would tell the mother would call her daughter, and then her daughter would give me a message. So I was lucky that a message came through her before it came to me. That your mom called and this is a situation they have at home, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do because I don't have any money. Say, what are you talking about? Make sure you get a day, you go home and see what is the situation. I remember I was like, okay, first of all, where am I going to get the money even if I go? Because I don't think I have a saving after the incident I had. It's like
you don't have everything went.
But they kept quiet. They never said anything. They never fought with us. And even with my skills with the laptop or with computer, I remember the husband was a very IT man. Like every time, I remember like when he goes to work or maybe he forgot something. For me, it's a trust. Like they always, everywhere I went, they always felt like they can feel free with. That is a favor, I guess, that God had put on me. That even though she would say, okay, no one else, even the boys in the house have the key, he would always know where his key for his office is. So whenever anything goes with missing, maybe say, okay, Jackie, only you have the office key. And then one time he was there, he called me and started teaching me how to. I didn't know why he was doing that. But I remember later on, I think he was in a meeting and he would call me talking very slowly. And say, you go to my office, you open this laptop, do this, type this, look at this. So it's like things like that used to teach me. And then later on, I'm like, when later I came back, it's like, you saved me today. They were very important documents I wanted, and I did not know how to get it. And from that day, I think that's when he's like, the family is like, I was always eager to learn. I was always eager to learn from the best. So now, back to this call, I was like, okay. She said to me, on Saturday, pack your things, and then you go to the bus, and then you go and see your
mother.
So I was not lacking anything. I know every time she went to Dubai to shop, she would buy us clothes, she would buy us things. She would come back and like give us thanks for taking care of the kids, and she was so beautiful. And so many people that I met that had a good heart, I always said, I want to be like them. I want to be like this. I want to always be there. Yes. So, and now a time comes, she comes and say, okay, I'm going to take you. I'm like, you have never been in the bus park. You can't be say no, but I think she had a driver, so I knew we would drop her to the shop and then maybe we proceed to the bus park. She gave me envelope, and that envelope I never even opened to see what it was until I reached sitting in a bus. To open it was 250,000. All my pay was inside that invoice. That time, that money was a lot.
It was.
I cried. I never said anything. I went home. I started to help the house to be put up again, which I did not also spend a lot, because it's like I used only like 50,000, like to go and cut more glass and then come and put on top. And then I remember going to my grandmother now, my grandmother of where my mother was staying. And I said, okay. Also, she was a very giving. I was so blessed with grandmothers. She had many children, but still my grandmothers, I always felt their love. Her love. And even me to run all the Catholic prayers, it's like I used to love the night. Before we go to bed, we'll all kneel down as grandchildren and we start fighting who's going to sleep next to her. And so, and she, me seeing how hardworking she was, how so giving she was, how she in her family, she didn't know who is a poor child, who is a rich child, who is a poor grandchild from a poor whatever. She always welcomed all of us. And then when I went to her, and I knew she was hardworking, for she was more wealthy and whatever, to compare where my dad was coming from. So my family, my mother's family was more wealthy to compare my father's family. So I gave my grandmother that 200,000. I said to her, I don't even want anyone to know I've given you this money. The reason why I have given you this money, because I want to go back, work, and then save by the iron sheet, you know, to build a house and put
on for your mother.
Yes. So, and then when I came back to work, and when I went back in Kampala, now this lady I was working with, and the one my big sister, I would say my big sister or whatever, they had, now they broke up as friends. So I didn't even stay there for 1 week when I just came back. And now their fights, it's like now because they have fights, they are no longer friends, now they can't keep me, and I have to go back to her house. Do you know what it taught to me today? For whoever is listening, never hate somebody because someone else is hating them. Because it's not okay. It is their fight. If we are friends and you have problems with her, as your friend, I'm going to tell you, don't expect me to also hate her. Because she have not done anything to me. And for me, that is a value. I carry even all my friends around that. They know it until today. If you are my friend, is that for me as a child, that affected me. You understand? It affected me that I have left home not a week ago, and now, like every time I wanted to achieve something, something would happen. And I'm blocked. And then I'm like, okay, what now? So I had to go back. What did I do? I was about like 17, thereabout. I went back to my big sister, and then I started praying and going back, singing and having some conference and things like that. But now it's like I was not earning any income. And I think that was when I first met my boyfriend, I would say.
At that age.
And I was so tired. I was like, always, I don't want to date anyone. I don't want to do anything.
You are focused,
but that was, I was always focused. And as a child, I did not know how to go to club. I didn't know how to, I did not have that life that I have friends, we are going out, so we are like how kids say, oh, I'm at the campus, oh, I'm going to this, so my friends and I were going to have parties, and so I did not have that. So approaching to 18, that is when I was having my first sweetheart, and that was the first time my baby came, my baby girl. I got pregnant, and I was like, oh no, okay, my life is over now.
At 18.
But I was lucky that at least the dad took responsibility.
Was the dad older than you?
Yes, he was older than me.
He had a job?
He had a job. He had his own house, and we were neighbors. So I think this young man have always seen me. No, I wouldn't say young man. He was older, and even people, when they used to see me, they would say, "You are going to be arrested to be applied."
Yeah, with this man, you're going to be arrested. As we continue with Madam Jackie's story, she's telling us about her first sweetheart. I know you all want to hear about that, but we are taking a very brief break. Please do not step away. It's only getting very interesting, very inspiring. I hope you're all getting inspired. Stay tuned.